This is a preview of today's main dish. It consists of chicken, mushrooms, potatoes, marrow, and a delicious gravy. It's called Gedempte Chicken, and Gedempte means well cooked. And after you see the process of how to make it, you'll understand why it has that name. Before I parboil the chicken, I just want to show you some prep work I do. These are chicken thighs, and you see they're nice big pieces, not too fatty, and I've opened them up, laid them down. I'm going to put freezer paper on top, and you notice how there is some fat, but I take care of that. After it's frozen, I take it out, and when it's just ready to defrost and it's pliable, I take and I cut off the fat at that time. It's really very easy. Like, see this? Instead of struggling now, I'll be able to cut it off later. And so I'll take this, and these are wonderful chicken thighs, organic, and I will cover it, and once this is completed, I'll show you the next step. This recipe calls for 2 to 3 onions. I like fairly large ones, so I'm going to show you how I like to cut onions. I know there are machines that can make the process a little bit easier, but I like to try my hand at cutting the onion by hand. And you just have to be steady and dig down. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take the 2 or 3 onions and put them in a little bit of water. Let them cook or simmer for about an hour. Or if you see they're getting soft, you can certainly take them out sooner. And you're going to strain the onions. And I'll be adding some garlic powder, paprika, and salt. But you see how nicely it does come out? Just take your time with it and make sure you keep your hands at a distance. And you usually can get pretty close to the bottom. Now there I have to cut a little bit. That should do it. And so you see, you really can get a nice pack of onions, and you can cut them yourself. Here's the second one. My eyes are just a little bit teary, but not too bad. And it works up pretty quickly. And because I feel the little burning sensation, it makes me work a little faster. And then I have a tool that just picks up the onions, and they go into a plate, and I'll be putting them in 2 cups of water with the seasoning, the garlic powder and the salt and the paprika. So that will be the next step. Now follow me over to the stove, and I'm going to add the onions and the water. Along with the seasoning, and that will be the salt. Don't overdo it. There's a lot of flavor in the chicken too. The paprika and the garlic powder. And you just let it come to like a softening. Once the onions are soft, you're going to strain it and really work it into sort of like a mushy onion. And then you're going to put it right back in, and I'll show you the next step. I like using russet potatoes, medium to large if possible. And I'm just showing you one that I pare, and I'm going to cut one of the potatoes and show you how I like it on the larger size, because if you cut them too small, what's going to happen is they will just soften and crumble in the water. And that you don't want, because you'll be having a little bit of flour that works up into a paste. So you take this and you just cut 3 sections, 1 and 2 that make 3 sections, and then cut big chunks like so, and that will mix in with the chicken. There, just cut it in half, don't make it too small, and I'm ready to put it in some water to come to a boil separately from the the onions and the chicken. So I just want to show you over here, there's just a little bit of water, and I'll be putting 3 to 4 potatoes in there to boil out, and they don't have to be real soft, because you can mix them with the chicken and the onions and let them simmer a little while longer, and they'll soften. Okay, now I'm just going to try one potato, and good. It's slightly hard, which is what it should be, because it's going to cook more with the chicken. So I'm going to take and drain everything now, okay? I'll strain out all the water. And I'll be putting it aside and then adding it to the broth and the chicken when the time comes. Okay, now the onions are nice and soft, and I'm taking them out, straining them, and what I do is I use a potato masher and I crush them a little bit more before putting them back into the pot, like so. And then they'll get even softer and disintegrate into the broth. So now I'll just take and put it back in and go over to the large pot now, and I'll add it in. That'll be the first step. The chicken has been frozen and is now partially defrosted, and I want to show you how easy it is to cut it when it's like that. And then also, when you see the fat right here, you can just skim it off, and you don't have to struggle with it. You see that? It just can be cut off. And I'll show you another one right here. I've got most of them cut in half. Now there's a big piece of fat, and it's so easy to just cut it off when it's still a little bit frozen. See that? And so I have this, and here is more fat to come off. And you don't have to be fussy about it. It'll go into the broth. And this last piece got a big chunk here, so you want to take maybe and cut that in half. And then if you see little pieces on the edge, just cut them off. And now what I'm going to do is take all this chicken and add it to the onions. I will pour in a couple of cups of water to begin with. It's only later on, right near the end, that I'll be adding a little bit of flour as a thickener. But follow me over here, and I have the chicken, and I'm going to add some of the potatoes, and I'll add a little bit more near the end. I will also put in the water. And if you use beef, you'll probably have to cook it a little bit longer, but chicken will be fine. You can check it after an hour. And then I have what's called marrow bones, and I'm going to put those in. Here's the marrow bones, and they have a wonderful filling that is very sweet, and it adds flavor to the Gedempte chicken. And just place those in there, and they will add wonderful flavor to this meal. So one of the last things that goes into the pot are these pieces and stems of mushrooms. Just get a small can, and when you open it up, if you see some of them are a little bit big, just cut them into smaller pieces, and they'll mix in nicely with the entire pot of Gedempte chicken. You know, I've done some of them already, and I think that looks pretty good. And now we're ready to do the finishing touches. Okay, see how the chicken looks really well cooked. And remember I said that I'm going to add more of the potatoes at the very end, and they'll soften up. And I'll put in the mushrooms. Okay. That's all. Just disperse them all around the edges and in the center. And then you can just mix them lightly. You don't want to break the potatoes. Good. Marrow bones look good, nicely cooked. Now I'm going to take half a cup of cold water, and I will add about a heaping tablespoon of flour and mix it. And always make sure that the water is cold so it dissolves properly. And then I will take and add it to the mix, and that will be the thickener. And now let it simmer for another 10 or 15 minutes. And I will put the lid on and we'll look at it at that time. It's all done, and I want you to see what a nice gravy is in here, and all the chicken and potatoes are so well cooked. And now what I'm going to do is prepare another side dish that goes along with this meal too. So I start off with bow ties, but when you go to the supermarket, its generic name is farfalle. And this is the beginning of the side dish called kasha in either bow ties or varnishkas. And I'm going to put it in water, boiling water, and it will heat up for 12 to 14 minutes. The next step is to take 2 cups of water and 2 tablespoons of either butter or buttery spread, and add a pinch of salt, and just bring this to a boil. That will be step 2. And the third step is to take an egg, beat it, add a cup of kasha, and by the way, there are different granulations. This is medium granulation. And you're going to make sure the egg is completely immersed with the kasha. And you're going to add it to a fry pan on high heat for 2 to 3 minutes. And that's while the bow ties are cooking and the water is getting ready to boil. Okay. Now this will simmer for 8 to 10 minutes, and you make sure you cover it and turn the heat down. The bow ties are ready, and so just make sure you drain them well. Good. Kasha is done. Now here's where the fun begins. I'll be taking a spoonful of kasha and adding the same with bow ties, and then a little bit of buttery spread. So I'm going to take big heaping spoons now of the kasha, and I will take and dribble the bow ties, and again add more butter, and you keep alternating this until it's all finished, and then you can mix it until you don't see any more butter. And bow ties, and now you can just add more of the butter and mix, mix, mix. And there you have it. You have the most delicious kasha and bow ties, and you can serve it on the side, and it even is a meal unto itself. As I sign off on today's show, I just want you to look at this beautiful china dish. It belonged to my mom and dad, and here is the meal that I cooked today, but I included the string beans from my wonderful garden. And I just want you to know that my mom worked in a kitchen that had a gas stove, and she also worked a full day in a store, and yet she came up with these beautiful recipes and inspired me to share them with you today. So I really hope that you'll take the time to look at the recipes and give it a try. Thank you.